Today on the Comic Book Report, we'll be doing a quick unboxing for the Jed MacKay Moon Knight Omnibus. This was easily one of my most anticipated books coming out in the last quarter of 2024, and I can't wait to show it off today. So let's go ahead and get started with today's unboxing. Welcome back everyone, my name is Dominic, and like I said, this is the Comic Book Report. We review comic books and graphic novels so you can get an idea of what to read. And this is the box I got in this week. I ended up placing this order through cheapgraphicnovels.com, and my order here actually has two omnibuses, so you'll get a quick look at another book I picked up this month. But anyway, let's go ahead and dive into the box today. And in case you're wondering, I did tear off my address, which took a chunk of the box off. They sent it in better condition than this, but again, I took off the shipping label and it ripped some of the cardboard up. But anyway, opening the box up, we actually got a ton of packing paper, kind of scrunched up and making a nice little kind of barrier to keep the books in. Honestly, it was pretty well packed. And then both of my books still in their plastic wrap, also within a kind of grocery bag of some kind. Everything was packaged well though. I had no issues with condition. The books turned out absolutely great. So in this box, I did get that Jed MacKay Moon Knight Omnibus, which we'll be talking about, but I actually also got the Spider-Man by David Miscellany and Eric Larson Omnibus reprint. Anyway, more on that book later, but today we're going to focus on Moon Knight. And as we go ahead and remove the last of that plastic wrap for this omnibus and begin stretching out the spine for this book, let's go into a couple details about the book itself. Now, this Moon Knight Jed MacKay Omnibus includes the Moon Knight 2021 series, issues 1 through 30, Devil's Reign Moon Knight Annual 2022, issue 1, and material from Avengers, the 2018 series, issue 45, and Moon Knight Annual 2023, issue 1. Now, the comics here were created primarily by Jed MacKay, Alessandro Cappuccio, Federico Sabatini, and more. And in case you can't tell, this is an oversized hardcover edition with glossy print paper stock and a sewn binding. And in case you're wondering, the book has a total of 848 pages. And now let's go ahead and transition to taking a look at the exteriors. This is the front cover of the Moon Knight Omnibus. I did go ahead and opt for the standard edition cover here with the image from Greg Capullo. Absolutely adore this omnibus cover. The direct market cover is also quite striking. I'll go ahead and throw up a quick thumbnail of that just so you can compare. I honestly think both covers look great, but I couldn't pass up that Capullo cover. Ever since I read his stuff with Scott Snyder in the pages of Batman, I have been hooked, and honestly, this is just a really, really great cover. The spine as well has a really beautiful design. It feels very modern omnibus. I like it. I really like the colors we get, the kind of fade from the purple to the black. Love the image of Moon Knight we get at the bottom of the spine. I do believe for direct market that image might be different, but other than that, in the front cover, everything else should be identical. And on the back cover, of course, we have another epic image of Moon Knight, along with a blurb, kind of description about the book, the contents, pricing information, rating, things like that. All pretty standard for an omnibus, but again, I really like the design for this dust jacket. It looks just absolutely striking, and yeah, frankly, just a big fan over here. And now for the next minute, I just want to do one final look at that dust jacket. This time I will also show you the interior flaps of that dust jacket. We get more blurbs about the book, things like that. A couple extra images of Moon Knight, which is always a nice touch. I'll try to just spread it all out for you so you can see it all at a glance. Again, this is the standard edition cover, which you can kind of find everywhere, at least at the time of the recording. After we take a look at that dust jacket, like I said that one final time, we'll go ahead and transition to the under the dust jacket artwork printed on the hardback book itself. Now, this is a total wraparound spine image. It's largely black and white here, and it's taken from one of the early issues in this Moon Knight Omnibus. I think it's just amazing. We have all the words kind of stripped out of it, but we just have this really kind of gruesome and larger than life image of a kind of monstrous Moon Knight looking figure. It's just really intense, and honestly, as a hardback book design, I think they just knocked it straight out of the park. And now before we go into the collection proper, I did want to show all of you prospective collectors out there a quick look at the binding for this omnibus. I was very impressed and happy to see what the binding looked like. Like I said, I think it's sewn binding here, and my edition had a really nice little eye, so everything lays down fairly flat, which is wonderful. I think the gutter loss here in this book is really minimal, and again, I just think it was really well done, so good job, Marvel. Okay, and as we make our way into the omnibus itself, we have some nice dark black end pages, a title page, followed by a creator breakdown page that has some of the publication information on the bottom, and then we jump right into the main first issue of this omnibus with Jed MacKay's first issue, issue 1 of Moon Knight. Now for this unboxing, I'm not really going to go into spoilers. There might be a couple things as far as the images here, but I'm not trying to speak to any, and I'm trying to be sensitive to what I show in the visuals as well where possible. But I'd love to give you just a brief kind of sampling and an idea of what you can get or expect from this series for those that might be interested. I do plan to do a full review of this book in the coming weeks, so if you want a video that goes more into spoilers and kind of reviewing some of the story content, things like that more critically, definitely stay tuned on the channel for that, like I said, in the coming weeks. Now, what is Jed MacKay's Moon Knight run? Where does this take place? What do you need to know? Is this accessible to new readers? Well, let's talk about it. I think first and foremost, I'll start with this. Is this a run that is friendly to newer readers? I will say a resounding yes. As someone who's kind of just getting into the character of Moon Knight, sure, I've dabbled in the past here and there. I've read some of Bendis's run, I've read the Lemire run, I've read just a tad of the Warren Ellis run, some of Chuck Dixon's Marc Spector Moon Knight run, but I haven't really invested deeply in this character. I have kind of a functional or working knowledge of the character, and even that I don't think is 100% necessary to enjoying this book, because I think overall Jed MacKay does a fantastic job of filling in the gaps for what you need, but also having a new status quo, kind of bare, basic approach to this character, and it's almost like he honors the past runs in different ways throughout this run, but he does it in a way that invites new people to the table. Sure, will you be rewarded if you've read some of the other Marc Spector adventures, the Moon Knight stories in the past? Yeah, probably, you might get richer payoffs, but overall, like I said, he's very new reader friendly here. One thing that is perhaps worth noting, though, is that this series seems to take place shortly after Jason Aaron's Avengers run. I didn't read that run yet, but I understand there's a big Khonshu-related event that occurs that has direct impacts on the character and kind of the supporting characters in that Moon Knight mythos. They reference it a lot throughout this book, especially in the beginning, but it's not a way that I felt like I needed to read a bunch of other stuff to understand what's going on here. It's more of like they kind of drop some exposition as to what happened, and now here we are in this new status quo. And what is that status quo exactly? I think to say it as succinctly as I can, Moon Knight is at a really interesting crossroads personally and kind of with his mission in general, and he's going back to the basics of wanting to help travelers at night, anyone in his neighborhood that's calling on him for aid. He sets up a mission, essentially, where he has an open door for those that need help. He often greets those that pass through his doors in his persona as Mr. Knight with his nice suit and kind of attention to detail, but he often goes out as the Moon Knight vigilante with the cape and everything when he actually fights the crime. A really fun narrative device that almost works like a frame in a lot of the issues is this kind of therapy session we get. We have Moon Knight with a psychiatrist, and we have him just kind of processing where he's at, or kind of being coy, or just kind of playing, not playing games, but we just kind of get a little bit more into his head and his motivations. And this all has a kind of story reason as to why he's in therapy, and I'll let you get that revealed as you go through the book. But it's really nice. Honestly, it's a great way to kind of catch up newer readers, while also, again, setting up a kind of narrative device that they can use throughout to varying degrees. Excellent stuff here. Without going into plot details, something else that I think should be commended that Jed MacKay does is his sense of pacing. There's like a thrill ride aspect to a lot of the writing here, and yet it takes its time to also have these deep character reflection kind of moments or even issues. And whatever issue he's writing, it just feels like precisely the right amount of space for that given issue. I don't really know how else to say it, but he feels like a master at this. Admittedly, I am a newer Jed MacKay fan. I read his run on Black Cat and absolutely loved it. I did read the first couple issues of this Moon Knight run, I think at the end of last year. I had the paperback, then I heard they were coming out with an omnibus, so I sold it and was just getting ready for this. But honestly, I am newer to Jed MacKay. Like I said, he's only really been on my radar for this last year. This is only the second series of his I've really invested in, or first, depending on how we look at it, I guess. But I'm really impressed so far with what he's brought to the table, especially over here at Marvel. As far as the art direction for this omnibus, I will say that one of the lead artists is Cappuccio, and honestly, for my money, it is one of the most spectacular art runs I've seen in a while in one of these mainstream Big Two books. I know that this can be a stylized, kind of bigger swing. I don't think it looks like a lot of art we see in a lot of other Marvel titles. I understand why it might not be everyone's cup of tea, but for me, it just really checks all the boxes. There's almost this kind of anime feel to some of it, especially some of the action or fight sequences. I don't know if anyone else picks up on that, but I feel like that must have influenced somehow this style. I could be wrong about that, of course, but that's what it kind of feels like to me. I really think that there's a great sense of motion. I think the character models are all really, really amazingly constructed. There's something just vibrant and kinetic about this artwork that just jumps off every page it's in. And whenever Moon Knight gets extra kind of dark or creepy or mystical, the way that like Moon Knight just looks ill-defined and more, well, spectral is just really, really impressive. It's just really engrossing, captivating stuff, and it's hard to look away. Honestly, the art was a huge draw for me for this collection. Yes, I really liked MacKay's stuff I'd read already, but seeing this artwork page after page, it was hard not to get absolutely lost in this title. And even the few days I've actually owned this omnibus, this book is really hard for me to put down. I honestly can't wait to do a full review of this book because I definitely have some thoughts, but suffice it to say, if it wasn't abundantly clear already, I'm already a big fan of this run in general. I'd love to hear some comments. If you've read Jed MacKay's Moon Knight run here, what do you think about it? Do you follow any of Jed MacKay's other work, especially for Marvel? Would love to get some feedback on some other titles. Did you end up picking up this omnibus? Do you plan to? I'd love to get discussions going on that as well. I'm just really excited to talk about this book because it's honestly just really gripping and a nightly read for me at this point. I did want to show you some of the stuff at the back of the omnibus as well. We do have a handful of extras here. Most of it is art in the form of variant covers, some thumbnail covers that we have, a couple per page toward the back as well. That is the bulk of the extras for this omnibus, but they are absolutely gorgeous, and it's really cool to see some of the artists they got to do variant covers for this Moon Knight run. And I think that's going to begin to wrap us up on the Moon Knight by Jed MacKay Omnibus from Marvel Comics. This was just an unboxing, like I said, a quick first look at this collection. I hope you've enjoyed it. Any questions for me or about this book that I can help with, please go ahead and comment those as well. And if you're looking forward to a review of this book, as I mentioned earlier, please stay tuned to the channel. If you haven't yet, consider subscribing, maybe hit that bell notification icon so you'll know right when I drop the review. Thanks again, everyone, and until next time, this has been the Comic Book Report. Please don't forget to leave your like, that comment we talked about, and maybe share this video with a friend. Thanks, and have a good one.